Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Hope you're having a blessed day. 107.5 FM, 580 AM, KIDOTalkRadio.com. Joining us today, Jamie Glazoff, Front Page Magazine editor. He's got a new book, Jihadist Psychopath. First of all, Mr. Glazoff, big fan of Front Page. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Well, thank you so much, and it's an honor and pleasure to be here.
So when we take a look at, let's get this out of the way. Front Page Magazine, for people that aren't familiar with it, let's make people aware what is so special about your publication.
What is so special about it? Well, first of all, the main man behind Front Page is David Horowitz, a hero of our time. He's a former leftist. He was within the belly of the beast, and he saw the evil that he was inside of, and he exited and escaped the left, and he's dedicated his life to unveiling what the left is. He knows the left better than anybody, and so he fights the left because he's a former leftist. And Front Page Magazine focuses on the threat abroad and the threat at home. So where we gauge and we analyze who is threatening us from outside of the United States. But guess what? There are people within the United States that are trying to enable and abet our destruction by supporting our enemies. And, of course, that's the left. Now, I come from the Soviet Union. I was a baby when my parents escaped, and so I know the evil of communism. And I know that the left, when I grew up here in North America, in the United States and Canada, I saw what the left was doing. The left was on the side of the Soviet Union. Now the left is on the side of jihad. So it's also my goal to unveil the left. So that's something David Horowitz and I share very much in common. And Front Page tells the truth about these things. And you will never see this, of course, on MSNBC and CNN and the front page of the New York Times, etc.
Well, Mr. Glazoff, let's talk about your latest book, Showdown with Evil, Our Struggle Against Tyranny and Terror. Are we winning the battle against jihad, or are we losing it?
Yeah, that's one of my recent books. We're definitely losing. Definitely losing. Where do we even start? I mean, look, just off the top of my head, let me see. Laura Loomer kicked off of Twitter. Tommy Robinson kicked off of Twitter. All this censorship going on in terms of the people that are trying to stand up to jihad, and yet Hezbollah and Hamas are allowed on Twitter. And that's a reflection of what's going on in our society and in our culture. Look, when the Obama administration came in 2011, no, sorry, I know they came in before. I just mean what happened in 2011, is the Muslim Brotherhood front groups, CARE, MSA, ISNA, and all those characters, that's the Muslim Brotherhood front groups. They approached the administration and said, hey, look, show us your intelligence agency manuals, your intelligence agency training manuals. Let's take a look at them. Obama administration allowed them to do that. Imagine allowing the KGB to look at that stuff during the Cold War. So these front groups come in, they come back to the administration and say, we don't like all these references to jihad, we don't like all these references to Islam, take them all out. And the Obama administration abided by that. What happened because of that? Well, we cannot make a threat assessment. We were unable. We cannot even say jihad. We cannot say Islam. So guess what? Boston Marathon Massacre, San Bernardino, Orlando, Fort Hood, you name it. It's because the Obama administration willfully blindfolded this country and our intelligence agencies. And so are we losing? Absolutely. Because our foreign policy and our domestic policy of trying to protect ourselves is framed by our enemy, by the Muslim Brotherhood. Stephen Coughlin in Catastrophic Failure, masterpiece. You have to read it. Everybody's got to read it. He documents all of this. Thank God for Donald Trump, because he is now reversing all of these disasters, or trying to, because there's so many people still trying to stop him.
Mr. Glazoff, let's talk a little bit about the young people today that want socialism. Is that because of social media, or why is that happening, sir?
That's a great question. Tragedy of our time, but very reflective of human nature and something deeply rooted in our human nature, because it takes a very courageous, wise person to withstand the utopian virus. And I write about this in my new book, Jihadist Psychopath. It's the easier way to go to believe in that communist dream because it's the serpent's first lie to Eve, right? That's the first lie. You can be God. And you see, the leftist virus, this virus is the belief that we can become gods. We can build this great, perfect world. We're all going to join hands. We're all going to be equal. We're all going to be the same. It's very, very tempting. It takes wise, noble people to read the Gulag Archipelago, to learn what happened under Stalin, to learn about the Maoist Cultural Revolution, to learn about the Cambodian killing fields under Pol Pot, to learn about Castro's Gulag, because all of those experiments show the monstrosity of the Marxist idea. The very idea of equality by necessity leads to terror. And this is very difficult for many, many people to accept because they believe that they can create a perfect society. Those of us who understand what's going on know that perfection only comes from God. That doesn't mean we don't try to build a better world. But like Thomas Sowell always counseled, there's benefits and costs, Everything comes with a consequence. So we have to be very careful because there's the limits of the possible. Now think about, for me, my friend, who comes from a country where that evil empire killed millions of my people, up to 50, 60 million. All my relatives that ended up in the Gulag, killed by the KGB. And today, most young people, or a very large percentage, whatever these polls are saying, but as you said, the young people today think Bernie Sanders is a great thing. Let's do it again. Let's try it again. Let's bring Venezuela here. It's because of that temptation of that lie that we can create a perfect planet, and it leads to evil. Every attempt to build heaven on this earth leads to hell. And the answer to that is, and I don't mean to turn into a Christian evangelist here, but we got to say the truth, is salvation comes from Jesus Christ. It doesn't come through man.
Well, and Mr. Glazov, here we are on KIDO Talk Radio in Idaho, where we love the Lord. We don't have a problem with that. So, and I apologize, I thought that was your latest book. Tell us a little bit about your latest book, Jihadist Psychopath, and why the press seems to back the enemies of America and not Americans.
Oh, absolutely. The establishment media is controlled by the left. And so I study the left. I've dedicated my life to exposing these monsters because the left comes to you with smiles. They're for equality. They're for social justice. They're for fairness. Oh, Kathy Griffin, Chelsea Handler, Joey Behar, they just want a better world, and they want a better world for women and the wage gap and pro-choice and all that stuff. If they really cared for women, have you even heard them one time take a stand for Asia Bibi, the Christian woman that's rotting in Pakistani jail today for 8 years because she touched a cup? And only Muslims are allowed to touch a cup, certain cups in Pakistan. And why I'm bringing all that up is because in Jihadist Psychopath, it's my next analysis of the left. So just very quickly, right now, I'll just say this. For years, I studied psychopaths. I studied their con game. And psychopaths, wow, and we've all been in their web one way or another. We've run into them. And people that are reading the book now are like, oh, my God, that's this relative, that's this boss, that's this coworker. Oh, yeah, they're all around. And see, psychopaths know how to charm you. They know how to seduce you. But once they got you in their grasp and they put their claws in you, it's very difficult to escape. Now, as I was studying jihad and Sharia and the Islamization of the West, all of a sudden a light bulb started to go off. Oh, wait a minute, this tactic. And I began to see that the same way that psychopaths charm and seduce and devour their victims is the same way that Islam is doing to us. So I think I've done something groundbreaking here, and not too many spoilers, I guess, but I'll just give you one example. You know that person in your life, one way or another, who punches you in the face and then wants you to apologize? Right. Now, maybe you and I don't do that because we're smarter than that, but there are people that get caught up in that, and we know these people, the people who make excuses for their abusers, and when their abusers persecute them and abuse them, the victim says sorry. You see, the psychopath is an expert in getting people to apologize to him while he's abusing them. Take a look at jihad. Every time there's a jihadist attack, within 4 hours, the establishment media, what are they saying? Are they saying, hey, this is caused by Quran 9.5, 9.29, this is because of Islamic ideology, this is Islam? No. The narrative we get is, oh, the Muslim people, the Muslim communities are so afraid of a backlash right now. And then all of a sudden, we're apologizing to the Muslim community. How can it be that the members of an ideology kill us, and within 2 hours, we're apologizing to members of their ideology? They're supposed to be apologizing to us. This is one of the steps, Kevin.
Jamie Glazoff joining us, Front Page Magazine editor. I still go back to, and I'm sure you detail this in the book, sir, I still go back to just the media covers things up, and you bring up some good examples, Kathy Griffin and all these other things, and when they say, they say Allah Akbar and all these things, they say, oh, well, that's nothing else. But on the other hand, they try to say, well, it's a white person, an extremist, it's a person with guns. Where did we lose the moral compass from our media?
Well, absolutely. Again, it's because of the left. You bring up something very important here. There's a huge cover-up here. Number one, just to start with, look, here's the thing. The left's goal is to destroy its host democratic society. The left is waging war on this society. It wants to build its classless utopia on the ashes of the society that it wants to destroy. And that's why leftists were so gleeful when 9/11 happened, and I've documented that in my book, United in Hate. Now, here's the key. If you're going to admit an evil adversary, if you're going to admit the truth about jihad, then here's the logical steps here. Oh, jihad is evil. Sharia is evil. Wow, our society is better. The Judeo-Christian tradition is superior. And what's the next step after that? Our civilization and our society is worth protecting and defending. You see, the leftists can't make that conclusion because they want to destroy this society because they're so oppressed here. They have to overthrow the patriarchal capitalist, hegemony here. So because of that, they have to push the victims of Sharia and jihad into invisibility, and they have to lie about what jihad really is. You see? In order to achieve what they want to achieve. So therefore, as you bring up, even the other day, it's every day, I was traveling and I'm putting it on these different TV stations, and there was a terror attack in France, and again, the terrorist is screaming Allahu Akbar. Guess what the anchors are saying? The guy was screaming God is great in Arabic, but she says God is great, and then she says, he said it in Arabic. Okay, first of all, he didn't say God is great. God is not Allah, okay? Let's get that straight right off the bat. So he's not saying God is great because the God of the Bible is not the Allah of the Quran, and we can get into that in another show about who Allah really is. But secondly, they're not saying God is great. They're saying Allah is greater. Allah is greatest. And guess what? When an Islamic terrorist is saying Allah is greater, and my God is greater than your God, or I even have to refrain, but yeah, they say my God, but Allah is greater than your God, and they're on the other side of the cockpit trying to get into the cockpit, and you're flying the plane, you better watch out. Now, the media needs to cover this up. They don't want to admit it, as you say, because they're leftists, and they do not want to get distracted. They are trying to wage a war on this society. That's why they hate Donald Trump so much. You see, they got so used to Obama. Obama's got an axe just taking the legs right out from Western civilization.
Well, Mr. Glazoff,
Trump's come in, and all of a sudden he's defending our country. That's why they hate him so much.
And let's take we'll take a pause here and do that in a minute. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM, 580 AM. Mr. Glazoff, hate to cut you off, but Jamie Glazoff with us here from Front Page Magazine. Do you have a personal website? We're still rolling here, and I want to get back to the left's love of Obama and their hatred of Trump, but what's the best way for people to follow you? Just Front Page Magazine? We've never had a guest on like you before, so we want to make sure we get the info out.
Well, I'm the editor of FrontPageMag.com, and you can also go to my personal website at JamieGlazoff.com.
Traffic and weather together, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Dave. And back again. Mr. Glazoff, let's get back to this love affair that the media had with Obama. We thought rightfully so, that when the president was elected, it would end the Obama era influence, and yet the deep state seems to not want to give up in some respects. Maybe they're getting stronger, sir. What do you think?
Well, absolutely. Look, because the truth's not being told about what Obama did for years. The government is saturated with his people. It's saturated with Muslim Brotherhood sympathizers. When you even talk to people, they're like, "Oh, what are you talking about? What are you talking? Well, what do you mean? Why was Mohammed El-Biari on the Homeland Security Council in Homeland Security? Why was he there?" And people a lot of people are just ignorant, never heard of his name. That's just one. Mohammed El-Biari, working in Homeland Security for Obama. This is a Muslim Brotherhood sympathizer. And I could go on and on about what he was doing during that time. Huma Abedin, on the right-hand side of Hillary. Her family's Muslim Brotherhood. She worked for a Muslim Brotherhood organization while she was the editor for their magazine. I mean, just let this roll around in your heads, people. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. Now, they infiltrated the government during that time. So it's very difficult to do anything that quickly because they're saturated in there. And I'll just give one example of why, people say, why are you for Donald Trump? Well, okay, one quick example. San Bernardino massacre, Saeed Farouk, Tafshin Malik. Why were they able to do what they did? Well, guess what? A Homeland Security officer named Phil Haney was working for the Department of Homeland Security, and he was investigating Islamists coming in and out of the country and how their networks were working here. The Obama administration came in and shut down his investigation and deleted all the files. And what does Phil Haney have to tell us? The groups and networks that he was following were that those networks, Tafshin Malik and Saeed Farouk, were operating within those networks. If he had been allowed to do what he was doing, they would have been detected and they would have been prevented from doing what they did. What's the conclusion? Obama has blood on his hands because in the name of political correctness, American citizens are being killed. And so thank God for Donald Trump because he is reversing a lot of this madness. And thank God bringing in people like John Bolton as National Security Advisor and bringing in these wonderful people. But it's going to take time because these demons infiltrated the U.S. government during Obama.
Let me ask you the big question. How bad did Obama mess us up?
On a scale of 1 to 100, probably 9,000 million, 100,000 billion. I mean, it's a catastrophe. You got to read Stephen Coughlin's book, Catastrophic Failure. He documents all this. Look, Obama, let's even start with this. What kind of an American president says that the future does not belong to those who slander the Prophet of Islam? I mean, number one, have you ever heard of the First Amendment? Number two, why are you supporting Islamic blasphemy laws? In other words, by saying that, Obama was siding with the millions of Muslims in the streets of Pakistan right now that are rioting because they want the blood of Asia Bibi. So are we for Asia Bibi or are we for the people who want her to die? Obama's philosophy was in support of Islamic blasphemy laws, which means he was in support of Sharia and jihad. And all of those policies, everything he was doing on every level. Look, I was terrified during the election, I have to say, because they had it in the bag. They had it in the bag. Hillary was going to become president. They were going to seal the deal. Hillary had already promised to the Organization of Islamic Conference that they were going to try to implement UN Resolution 1618 here, which is forbidding the criticism of Islam. So when Trump won, I have to be honest, I cried like a baby that night from joy because we've been given a reprieve. Maybe it's a brief reprieve, maybe it's a longer reprieve, but Trump really saved this country.
Jamie Glazov with us, Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM, 580 AM. Culturally, though, and maybe we'll do this after the news because this is going to take some time. Mr. Glazov, we'll get back to culturally what Obama did to us, but we take a look at the upcoming Congress. The knives are sharpened. We've got about 2.5 minutes in this segment. How do you think it's going to play when we're looking at a Democratic Congress that is urged on by the media to go after our president?
It's very depressing, a little bit scary, very troubling, very disturbing, because Trump is such... In my book, Jihad is Psychopath, I call him a providential godsend. He's really doing his best to protect this country, wash up and clean out that swamp, and just really do good things for America. And there is, like you said, now these Democrats, they're going to be investigating everything. They're going to be distracting everything. And it just, once again, it gets us off what we really need to be doing. Because what Trump is trying to do is... For instance, let me just give you one example. 100 ISIS terrorists were caught in the caravan in Guatemala. The Guatemalan authorities caught these 100 ISIS terrorists and deported them. Why hasn't Don Lemon talked about that? So thank God that Donald Trump is protecting us, because if there were 100 of them in that caravan, hey, look, how many people did it take to perpetrate 9/11? Look, it only takes one or two people to perpetrate a lot of damage. So Trump is focused on protecting our country from jihadists entering this country and, of course, criminals and all kinds of things, anybody that might harm this country. And the Democrats want to sabotage and undermine him. So who are the good guys and who are the bad guys?
Well, and that's the case entirely when you're taking a look at the media, who I believe is the biggest threat. Mr. Glazov, please hang on. Again, one more time, if people want to get a hold of you, we've got a couple more. We're going to go to the news, but how can people get a hold of you?
Well, you go to jamieglazoff.com and also just Google The Glazov Gang. That's my TV show where we discuss all of these truths. So jamieglazoff.com, look up my TV show, The Glazov Gang, and I'm also the editor of Front Page Magazine, which people should be reading every day. It's David Horowitz's website. And check it all out and join this effort to protect our freedoms and our civilization.
All right, much more coming up. You're listening to Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM, 580 AM. Good morning, Maggie. And once again, as we roll along here in the new year, just hearing from our new best friend, Jamie Glazoff, Front Page Magazine editor, author, speaker. I was going to say a dual threat, but you're a quadruple threat, multi-platform. We take a look at conservatives, and here in Idaho, one of the more conservative states, even we feel marginalized because people call us extremist. Can you go back to this planning by the left to silence us? In other words, you've got the libs that have come out of the closet, and they're the mainstream norm, and you have people that love God, pay their taxes, and fly American flags. Well, we're the bad people. How did this happen?
They are so clever. And again, my book, Jihad is Psychopath, it deals with this. You see, the psychopath makes groundless accusations. The psychopath, he accuses you of what he's actually doing. And then he opens up the curtains and brainwashes the onlookers looking in. And then all of a sudden the victim is apologizing. So what's happened here? Every time we try to tell the truth about Islam and jihad and Sharia, all of a sudden, what do we hear? You're a racist. You're an Islamophobe. You're a white supremacist. And so many people are terrified to be called these names that they just shut their mouths. This is the way that they're shutting people down. This is the way that they're also, kicking people off social media, etc. And it's such a lie, but they're very good at it. Now, logically, let me just say this. On my TV show, The Glazov Gang, and my producer, Annie Cyrus, who is a former child bride who ran away and escaped Iran. She was forced into child slavery and into child marriage, but she escaped. Now that's the foundation of Islam. And now she's making efforts, and I'm at her side, and we're constantly trying to save Muslim women and girls, to protect them. One of our main efforts is to protect Muslim girls from female genital mutilation, and Islam mandates that. How can it be that the people trying to help Muslim girls from being genitally mutilated hate Muslim people? How does that add up? How does it add up that I'm trying to save, and Annie's trying to save, and Robert Spencer's trying to save, and Pamela Geller's trying to save, all these wonderful people, Bill Warner and Nani Darwish and Bridget Gabriel, all these loving human rights activists standing up, not just for victims of jihad and Sharia that are non-Muslim, but also for the Muslim people. And yet we're called the racists and the white supremacists. They're very effective at this, whereas really they're the racists and they're supremacists. But anyway, our media is doing their bidding, and they're very, very effective. They're very effective at this slander and at this libel.
Well, and then they go after people. I'm sure they've gone after Front Page Magazine. They go after Fox News personalities. It's like they're collecting pelts, and that's not what the First Amendment is about. You even had a congressman, a month ago say, if I had a problem, I would censor speech. But there's the First Amendment, and you're going, these are elected officials. Are we in unseen territory here?
It's very, very scary how effective they are at silencing speech. Absolutely. And they've got the SPLC, Southern Poverty Law Center, which is actually a hate group. It's a group that's pretending it's looking for hate groups, but it's actually a hate group that's constantly slandering and libeling wonderful people. We've got CARE, the Council of American Islamic Relations, which pretends it's some kind of Islamic civil rights group, but that's another hate group. And by the way, a Muslim Brotherhood front group. So these groups are very effective because they're also going at credit to the credit card companies. They're stopping the counter-jihadists not only from speaking, but even from existing financially and being able to work financially. So these leftist and Islamic supremacist groups, and they're working together, are coming at the freedom lovers and freedom activists on every level. And look, we got to fight back, but this is the problem with conservatives. A lot of conservatives do not know what culture war is, and they do not know how to fight culture war. You see, a lot of conservatives, and I know a lot of them, I'll shoot that jihadist when he comes on my front doorstep, and then they go back to their barbecue. No! You're supposed to be involved in a cultural battle where you stop that person from even being in the country to come to your doorstep. Get involved. And so, a lot of conservatives think that culture war is canceling their cable. No, it's engaging. You don't leave a football field and think that you're going to win the game. You don't leave a battlefield thinking you're going to win the war. We have to engage. That's what David Horowitz does. He engages, and we expose, and you don't quit Facebook and Twitter. You stay on there and fight. You don't cancel your cable. You don't stop going to Hollywood movies necessarily. Like, don't get me wrong. I know what they mean on one level. Yeah, you don't want to give them your money or whatever. But you got to write a script of your own. You have to stay on their terrain. It's very important.
Jimmy Glazov with us, Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM, 580 AM. Okay, let's delve a little deeper. And not to cry victimhood, sir. Certainly you're fired up, and we appreciate that. We need more people like you in America. But on the other hand, then you have social media censoring conservatives. Well,
absolutely. And a lot of voices are being drowned. out. Look, even with me, I'm still so mind-boggled, although I understand why it happened. I was suspended off of Twitter for quoting and referencing Quranic verses. Now, it's very interesting. If Hamas and Hezbollah quote the verses to justify killing Jews and Christians, that's okay. But if I show that female genital mutilation under Islam is rooted in the Hadiths, I get suspended. On Facebook, I was physically threatened by a Muslim. I did a print screen photo, posted it on my Facebook, and I'm the one that gets kicked off. So something is going on here. And this is all by design. It's not a coincidence. It's not just happening indiscriminately. Look what's happened in Europe, the fall of Europe to mass Muslim migration. A lot of people probably never even heard of the word hijrah. This is jihad by immigration. ISIS boasts about it every day, that they're going to flood the infidels' and kafirs' territory with numbers, numerically, not just with terrorists, but by members of Islam. And so this is all being designed. It's all being choreographed. and the deep state is behind it. They're working closely with the left and with Islam, and we got to wake up, and we got to wake up fast.
Well, and again, that is so troubling, and I still don't get the whole thing with social media. You talk about your experience, and yet, I mean, let me ask you, Mr. Glazov, could they, on KIDO Talk Radio, could they shut those jihadis down if they wanted to?
Of course they could. If they can kick Laura Loomer off of Twitter, if they can kick, Tommy Robinson off of Twitter, what, they can't do that to the people supporting Islamic supremacism or even murder? Forget even, look, social media, absolutely, it's crucial. But just in terms of what it represents, the United Kingdom banned Robert Spencer and Pamela Geller because overall they think jihad is a bad thing. Do you want me to go through the list of who they allow into the country that says that jihad is a good thing? Our world is upside down now. I explain this in Jihad is Psychopath, why this is happening. And the left is doing their bidding. The left is full of malice, full of destructive intent. There's a reason the left sided with the Soviet Union during the Cold War. There's a reason why the left is on the side of Sharia and jihad today, and it's manifesting itself on every level, like you're saying, on social media, and on all the other levels as well.
All right, more coming up with Jamie Glazov. Kevin Miller in the morning. Do want to remind you that you can check out Mr. Glazov at Front Page Magazine. Also, we'll get his website again in a minute. Don't forget KIDOTalkRadio.com, where we have the blogs and everything else, and we sure do appreciate it. Also, getting ready for another year of Promote Our Schools, Secure Our Future, and that is coming up probably in February. So if you want your school profiled, all you have to do is contact me, Kevin, at KIDOTalkRadio.com. That's Kevin at KIDOTalkRadio.com. Mr. Glazov, again, your personal website?
JamieGlazov.com.
All right, more coming up here. You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. That's 107.5 FM, 580 AM. We're the place in Idaho where we want to hear from you. That is KIDO Talk Radio. And we're starting off the year with a heavy hitter, Jamie Glazov joining us. 107.5 FM, 580 AM, KIDO Talk Radio. Kevin Miller in the morning. And getting back to your background, I'm fascinated by it because, Mr. Glazov, can I ask you, how old are you?
How old am I?
Yeah, because I think we're about the same age. Maybe I'm 50, and I remember the Soviet Union, and I remember the evils, and I remember growing up, us versus them. But today, the children think that socialism is great, the Chinese are wonderful, and they don't understand the evilness of what this country faced. And I apologize if that offends you, but I was just trying to, you talked about being born there and that experience.
Right. No, I'm carrying on with you. It doesn't offend me at all. I'm just getting a little bit sensitive about the number, but I'm right around your age. Let's just put it that way.
Yes, sir. Well, let's go back to the Soviet Union versus America. Can we give people a history lesson that thought that everything is warm and friendly in Mother Russia, and they're the same? They have the same values as we in the West do.
Well, absolutely. Look, the Soviet experiment was based on the Marxist idea, on the socialist idea, on that ever-ending effort to build a classless society. And every attempt to build a classless society necessitates terror. If you're going to start taking cows, I often talk to leftists. It's just incredible, their way of thinking. They're like, we're against private property. And I'm like, okay, so when it comes time to take the cow from the farmer, what do you do to him if everything has to be collective? And they say, well, he'll give it up. He'll know. He'll understand. He'll understand we're building a better world. And no. But let's just say he doesn't understand. Let's just say he doesn't want to give up his cow. And we all know the answer to what has to be done to him. By the way, that's something the left really doesn't like, those conversations when you really start crystallizing what's going on. And so, look, in the Soviet Union, that's what ended up happening, just mass terror. And it's happened in the Soviet Union, in Mao's China, in every single experiment where this has happened. Because it's coveting thy neighbor's goods. That's one of the commandments. Do not covet thy neighbor's goods. Thou shalt not steal. And in the end, that's what socialism is, because you're looking at the property and what is owned by your fellow man, and you're wanting it, and then you end up taking it. And so that leads to all kinds of crimes, and it also leads to economic devastation. Now, America, on the other hand, based on the Judeo-Christian tradition, based on the wonderful Constitution, based on common sense, based on liberty, you've got individual freedom, you've got the respect for the individual, you've got private property, you've got competition, you've got prosperity, the greatest experiment on the face of the earth. It's not perfect, but it leads to freedom, it leads to prosperity, and Donald Trump is behind that effort, whereas Obama's on the other side. You know, the whole, you didn't build that thing, right? That's the socialist attempt. See, we escaped the Soviet Union, but under Obama, the Soviet Union came to us. And so that's what's so scary. So, yeah, the 20th century should be teaching people that communism is a failure and that the Marxist idea is evil. But the young kids today just don't get it. And to a very large degree, it's because the left is brainwashing them through this public school system and through the media. And through Hollywood, by the way, as well.
And more on that in a minute. Traffic and weather together. You're listening to 107.5 FM, 580 AM, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Dave. Kevin Miller in the morning, 107.5 FM, 580 AM. Jamie Glazoff joining us, Front Page Magazine editor, also best-selling author. Let's get back to you. Have you been targeted because of your beliefs?
Well, absolutely, on so many levels. I mean, look, all of us get our fair share of threats. All of us get our fair share of slander and libel constantly. CARE and SPLC are constantly trying to derail our TV show and what it calls us, what it calls me. It's constantly slandering and libeling our producer, Annie Cyrus, who's just a hero, and all that stuff, Islamic supremacist, white supremacist and racist and all these things that they like to call you. Just even off the top of my head, I'll even tell you what the left is really about in being targeted. I was out at a dinner lately for a buddy of mine. It was his birthday, and his family members had come, certain family members, and they found out that I was for Trump. And they made a scene in the restaurant. One particular individual got up from the table and said that she would not sit at the same table with me. There were two other ones that were literally screaming at me at the table. And I was basically saying, I'm here for a birthday. I'm not here to discuss politics. Now, one of the things I want to say there, it's very interesting that I'm the evil one, and yet they can't even conduct themselves civilly and are screaming and verbally abusing me. And of course, want a world where I will also be physically abused, of course. So, but they just don't have enough power at the moment. But it's very interesting. You see, Marxists, the personal is the political. You cannot accept the human being unless he agrees with you, right? And so it was just very interesting. This has just happened just recently. It's a very everyday thing. But even in a restaurant, when it's someone's birthday, they still can't contain themselves because they hate freedom of thought. They posture as if they're for diversity, but they're against the intellectual variety.
Well, are we in danger of going the way of the dinosaur?
Well, that's a very good question. Look, we just got to keep fighting. When I reflect on all this, I'll just say on a personal note that, often a lot of people that I fight alongside with, a lot of them get depressed, they're in despair and all this. I'll just say this. I'm not here to necessarily win. I don't need to win to fight. For instance, when my father was signing the petitions on behalf of prisoners of conscience in the Soviet Union, he knew he wasn't going to overthrow the Soviet Empire. He even knew the chances were very high that he'd end up in the Gulag. But you do the right thing. And when Jesus Christ says that when the world hates you, remember it hated me first, I believe that that's what we got to keep in mind. We're not here to be popular. We know what the Bible says about what's going to happen to us anyway, right? For a certain period. We know that victory ultimately comes through Jesus Christ. And it's already happened because, time doesn't necessarily travel in a straight line. So I'm saying that, look, let's just do the right thing. Let's fight on the right side. Let's confront evil the most that we can and do what we got to do. And then we leave the rest in the Lord's hands.
Boy, it sounds like an inspirational message to us in Idaho as well.
I hope so.
You know, it's amazing. So, Jamie, Mr. Glazoff, your thoughts on any encouragement you can give to the president during these trying times?
Well, I mean, where Trump really amazes me, and I got to try I try to follow him because he doesn't ever seem like he's shook, and I just love it. So maybe he needs encouragement from us, and we got to give it to him. But Trump knows how to fight culture war. This is why he's so hated, because the left is used to calling you names, and then you're just groveling on your knees. I'm so sorry, please. I'm not a racist, and I'm not this, and I'm not this, and I'm sorry, and I'm sorry. Trump doesn't do that. He just punches them right back in the face. He shrugs it off, and he keeps doing what he's got to do. And but I would say, if he did need a word of encouragement from a little person like me, I think I represent many, many people in saying, we love you, Mr. President. Just keep going the way that you're going. And that's, what he's good at. He just focuses and walks in a certain direction. And we just love him to death, and we know that he's doing very, very good and important things. And I guess love is something that we stress. We know he's doing the right thing, and we're behind him.
Well, Mr. Glazoff, we've got to have you back one more time if people want to get a hold of you on KIDO Talk Radio.
All right. Well, first of all, you got to Google The Glazoff Gang. That's the web TV show I host. Annie Cyrus is our producer, and we talk about the things that you're not going to hear Don Lemon and Anderson Cooper and Rachel Maddow ever mention. And just go to jamieglazoff.com. That's where it's all happening. And I'm also the editor of FrontPageMag.com, David Horowitz's magazine. What an honor it is for me to work at his side.
Sure.
And we're trying to expose the forces that are trying to destroy us.
Well, God bless you, sir. We appreciate you.
Thank you, my friend.